Hello, welcome to Startup Greece Talks. On this episode, I will meet Teo Vlachopanagiotis from Rhoé. So, welcome, Teo. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
My pleasure too. So, where are you right now?
Well, currently I'm in my home in Thessaloniki.
How is Thessaloniki?
Oh, well, rainy as always, actually. You imagine Greece as being this sunny place, but
The sunny
winter can
place.
be, yeah, winter can be as cloudy as London, where you are, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, thanks for being here, and it will be my pleasure to discuss further about Rhoé and learn more about you. So, let's start from that, and please share with us some more about your background, and if you would like to share more about your early, let's say, from your early age or the experience that you had and made you to do ROI and start involving on the field of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question, Thanos. Well, a few things about me. Actually, I'm a local of Thessaloniki, so I grew up here, and I got into civil engineering, which is my degree. And From the get-go, essentially, what stood out to me was the transportation sector, and because it's not just numbers, it's interacting with people and trying to model actual behaviors, right? And this essentially came hand in hand with the idea of how we tackle problems as a whole as engineers, right? And the fact that many times you try to solve for a problem that isn't really there. You create solutions that don't match an actual need. So that's kind of how we started. Actually, we started with a solution that there was no problem for. Me and of course uh, five other friends at the university were enamored with the field of transportation research, and we actually founded a transportation research group along with the professor of transportation planning there. However, we soon saw that what we thought could be cool as research would be even cooler to do as a product, and that's how we jumped into one of the first actually incubators in Greece, which set us off on our journey of tackling the problem of how can we make the transportation industry adapt to the 21st century and to a need to move away from carbon intensive sources, which is a huge problem.
Okay, all right. So I got your background. So let's deep more about ROI and share with us more about what is your product, what you are providing, what would you like to do at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So at Rhoé, what we do is we make sure that green transport makes business sense, right? The emerging problem in a lot of industries, in a lot of fields actually around the transportation industry, is that you have so many ingenious solutions that cannot really be applied because they do not make business sense. And I'll give you an example, right? So if you talk about the maritime sector, it's a very old, very established, very
Traditional.
slow-moving sector, yeah. And uh, of course, it has to move on to a greener way of doing things, right? It's something that is required across the board from even the highest of supranational bodies like the International Maritime Organization up to every nation state. But in order for them to move to a greener to a greener operational perspective, you have to introduce many times innovative business models and optimization techniques, and that's what we do. For example, one of the products that we're launching next year is the first battery swapping network for inland waterway vessels. So the question that came up is why don't we have more electric ships? I mean, it seems to work for cars, right? And that coupled with our experience in the transportation sector, and of course partners across the maritime industry helped us realize that for some cases, swappable batteries may not have worked for cars mostly, but they could work for some inland waterway. That means rivers, usually, ships. So yeah, that's one of the things we do. But at our core, we develop optimization systems, right? For example, for this one, we're creating the platform that manages the batteries themselves. Essentially, we're decoupling the batteries, which are containerized, from the vessel owners, and we're using the batteries as physical assets to sell to investors and provide them with a standard ROI. Across, of course, our projects and our expertise, we've done and we're doing the same for the e-mobility industry, where we're doing location optimization for charging stations and well, a host of other things.
Okay, that's very great and quite important. And we know that Greece is the motherland, let's say, of the shipping industry. So it's a good starting point for you to start and do some pilots with some of the most prestigious, let's say, if I could say, shipping companies. So how you realize that there is a problem and we have to solve it, and share with us more about the product market fit.
Yeah. So talking about the maritime sector, right? The problem there is huge, and you can feel it if you visit like a maritime conference. I was in Posidonia in the summer, so one of the biggest shipping conferences in the world, really. But we're, for example, in the waterborne technology platform as well, which is shaping the maritime research frontier. And you see that there are regulations that say, for example, by 2030, we have to rapidly reduce emissions in Europe, like Fit for 55 and all these things. And you have the IMO doing the same. And you have people like in the maritime sector really worried about what the future is. You have hydrogen, you have methanol, you have ammonia, you have natural gas, you have new forms of diesel and of engines, and you have, of course, electricity. So everyone is looking at different things, but everyone has to do something. And what we see there is that if you are able to provide something that is viable in terms of how it operates, it doesn't detract essentially from the operation of the ship, and it's a technology we know how it works very well, then you can essentially find an industry and a market where this can provide a very viable solution to the problems. It starts from inland waterways, so rivers, but you then see extensions and arrows going to offshore wind farms, where you have energy being produced that many times may not be needed. If you can couple that with battery storage, then that can work for ships going there to service, for example, the wind farms. It can work for shoreside shipping, and for example, you talked of Greece, for many islands in the Aegean as well. You can start looking at short routes that can be serviced very well with swappable batteries and electricity, that actually can also help in how the Aegean operates, because many of these islands don't have the infrastructure, right, to support many forms of refueling that are now being discussed. So the market is there. It's just a leap that has to be made.
Yeah, as we probably know, it's a very traditional market, and I'm not sure how easy to do something disruptive. And I would like to share with us some tips, if you have, on how to deal with companies like very traditional companies like shipping industry or maritime. We could say that there are some barriers. So you are a startup and you are doing something on that field that it's quite disruptive. How you manage to enter and start conversations with these customers?
Yeah, that's a very good question, right? Because on the one hand, you as I said, you have the need for innovation because this is required now. So you have conferences, even as I said, Posidonia, or if you look at Interferry, which brings together companies from the ferry industry, where you suddenly, out of nowhere, you have startup events there and pitching competitions and stuff like that. So it's not as if everyone is closed off and is doing business in a traditional way, because everyone recognizes that we have to find innovation. Nevertheless, you cannot change the modus operandi of an industry from one day to another, right? It's true that you have to have a lot of personal connections. Sometimes, if you want to work in this industry, it's true that it's based on trust more than risk taking. And of course, it's true that this all works like this because it's huge investments that are at stake. If this doesn't work, a ship can cost upwards of tens of millions euros, which you usually don't pay yourself. Then you have people you owe debt to, right? And then something going wrong can go very wrong very quickly. If you ask me for tips, for us, what worked and what works best is working with people and working with companies that embrace innovation but are established in the industry. So if you look at how we work, actually, our first pilots and our first ships will be in Amsterdam, right? Where we found partners both producing batteries, the port of Amsterdam and the port of Rotterdam, which are hugely innovative ports. And the moment you start getting partners that are actually open to innovation, then going hand in hand, you can start, let's say, penetrating the deeper layers of the industry and companies that are much more conservative in their approach. But as soon as they understand as well that, hey, you are a startup, but you're working with these guys, and hey, this is something that works, then yeah, okay. This is when you start making real progress in approaching this market.
So are you ready to do the pilot? What's the let's say the milestones that you have until then?
Well, we'll deliver our first version of the platform by the end of the year, as everything shows. The key milestone there and a key KPI for us is how much can we guarantee an over standard ROI for investors, right? So what we're looking at is, if I ask you, Thanos, to buy a whole or a part of a battery on our network, this can be, for example, a whole battery can cost €500,000, right? How much can I guarantee that you can get back each year? Currently, we can guarantee, of course, 80%, which is what you would get, right? If you would like invest in the stock market, but we want to go further than that, and we want to make sure that as the system and the network scales, it's not just us saying, okay, you get at 8%, but you're feeling better about yourself and you're doing a carbon neutral investment. But this can look as an overperforming, over market standards performing investment for most people. And when we crack that, that's when things get really exciting for us.
That's great. So let's see, and what's next about now is to learn more about the market. So we discussed about how you find customers and which way you are approaching the market, and more about the pilot. I need to know more about the market. How big is the market? Big enough? So is it stable and growing? We live on uncertainty times. Generally, the stock market, it's not that, let's say, the whole economy is doing quite well. So what are the projections on the field that you are? And please share us with some numbers.
Yeah. So actually, this is, of course, as you know, a discussion that's being had every day, right? So you have a host of crises and uncertainty. Actually, uncertainty after the COVID pandemic is now again as a trend word reaching peak interest rates on Google, like the word uncertainty. So you know that something is not going according to plan if everyone is very worried. In the green industry and the green energy and decarbonization, of course, it's a coin with two sides, right? Or maybe a knife with two sides, with two edges. So on the one side, right, you have a large part of Europe and, the US as well, but mostly Europe, moving much more quickly towards decarbonization, towards renewable energies, because you have a global status quo of people trying to acquire strategic autonomy, right? So on the one hand, right, you have investments going into renewables and green energy because that's the only way pretty much that the European industry, for a start, can guarantee that it is strategically located and positioned to negotiate on a world stage, right? On the other hand, of course, you have everything that comes with crisis, which is, of course, inflation. You have grants that would promote innovation going to more pressing needs, right? Like supporting people in, for example, this winter with the prices of energy being this high. So it's a question of how you tackle it, right? And for us, talking about the maritime market, for example, you're just seeing huge investments in electric ships. This is happening both across the Nordics, Northern Europe as well, Canada, the US, and we expect that to increase, the market being around 4 billion currently. We expect that to increase to around 20 billion, if I remember correctly, by 2030. So the winds are still blowing in the right direction. You just have to navigate that. And if you look at the other industry where we're working, which is e-mobility, like, and electric infrastructure and green cities, this is something where additionally you're seeing huge investments. Of course, you know that Europe announced, and a lot of countries across the world start announcing that we're moving away from internal combustion engines. So the investments are there, and the problems, of course, talking, for example, about infrastructure, charging station infrastructure, are also there. And an interesting thing, of course, that also opens up both in the maritime sector and the urban mobility sector is the question of resiliency, particularly under crisis, right? How can we manage disruption in a way that makes us better, that makes us, as they say, anti-fragile, to go with the buzzword of the days. And this is something that we're integrating into our systems currently.
Great. And what about your vision? So where you see your initiative in the next 5 years on that market, you know? Yeah. You know, it's a billion. I could say that it's $1 billion question, but yeah, it's a challenge. Imagine that we could see the video after 5 years, and let's see your projections, your predictions.
Yeah. So, well, talking about Rhoé, right? Our goal is to make a measurable, huge, hopefully, impact in how quickly we make the transportation sector something that people look kindly towards, right? The problem that drives us is that if you talk to people about, you mentioned transportation industry or urban mobility, everyone starts to think about, particularly around some parts of the world, but in general, about being maybe stressed about a lot of sound, a lot of pollution, people like having traffic, not knowing if you're going to be there when you get there. You have, of course, disruptions, airports recently as well, trains. And what we want to do is essentially rebrand transportation and do that by implementing solutions that help the transportation industry be what it wants to be, which is healthy, which is green, which is safe, which is on time. So if you talk about our vision, it's making sure either in the maritime industry or the urban mobility industry that we've done something and we've talked to people. And when we ask them to describe, what do you think about the system? What are the words that come to your mind? It's these words that I just said. And it's not anything that has to do with stress or pollution or anything of the kind. If we talk about the market, of course, it's a revolution, right? It's once in a lifetime. Well, it's a lot of once in a lifetime things have been happening recently, but it's changing the core aspect of how we look at the market. And I expect in 5 years to go to, for example, a maritime conference and talk about swappable batteries and not have people with very wide eyes being like, what are you saying? What's this? And have this or hydrogen or all of these things be things that are widely accepted and something that people have embraced across the industry.
Great. And let's move to the one of my favorite questions. What's your business model? How you generate revenues, and you have started with another business model and you are trying, or you are wishing to move to another. What is your plan on that?
Yeah. So, well, the way we started the company, actually, so we started from the urban mobility sector, right? And when you look at urban mobility and transport, you come in contact with the government sector a lot. And we try to do that. But what we saw is working with the government doesn't really coincide with being a startup, because things can be so slow across countries that growth stagnates essentially, and you cannot test the market as quickly as you'd like. So we pivoted to a B2B2G model, which is what we're mostly doing now. So we work in the urban mobility sector with businesses working with the government. We provide the innovation, we provide the expertise, we provide the optimization necessary, for example, for charging station location optimization. And then that is passed on to the government. Systems that we've created have been applied to 42 cities currently, for example. So that's one thing, right? And what we're doing now is we're moving from being a company that provides B2B to G or B2B services, if we talk about the maritime industry, to a product based business, right? Where we're developing and spinning out essentially products like the energy as a service, the swappable battery network that I mentioned, and running that as a thing of its own, and as something that can actually now affect the transportation industry.
Well, so it seems quite ambitious, and I believe you know that the product that you are trying to do has great potential. But what about the competition? What is your competitive advantage? I'm sure, and I've seen too many initiatives on that field, and too many startups are looking to tackle that issues and to provide another way to make that, let's say, transition to more green and to green energy actually. So how does it differ what you are doing from your competitors?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's extremely ambitious, and I think a very nice sign that you have a lot of startups working on how to decarbonize the industry, and that's very good. What we do is we bring expertise from across the transportation industry. So we've applied something that works for scooters or ships, right? And suddenly you find new and innovative business models that very few people could see coming, right? And I'll go back to our product launch next year, right? the energy as a service currently has two competitors, right, in the industry. And the good thing there is, for example, to get into the maritime industry, you need to be approved essentially by some of the companies across the world that can say that, hey, this is a system that works well, and it won't sink the ship, which is very important. So in terms of defensibility, when you get that, and we're very close to getting that, it's very easy to maintain your place in the market. And then when you look at competitors and how they work, their scale and their ambition is much lower, and their operations are not up to the task, right? You look at swappable batteries in ships, some examples have existed, but they haven't existed as part of a network of investors and ship owners and ports that can use these batteries, for example, when they're stationary, to do ancillary support and peak shaving. You look at, for now, you have just a host of MVPs. And when we launch next year and when the system starts working, economies of scale will allow us to provide ROIs that are ways over our competitors, which are currently just providing another way of moving your ship, while we're providing another way of investing into the green economy.
Great approach. I really like it. So right now, I'd like to ask you about the runaway and how you manage to survive and to build the products that we have discussed before.
Sure. So if I might ask a clarifying question. So the question is how we make money, or how many people we are, and how we manage money, how much runway we have.
Let's start with how you make money and how it could be, you make something sustainable. And if you are looking right now for what is the plan for you for the next few months for the, let's say, to have the liquidity that it's needed to.
Yeah. So it's been a good year for us, good past years for us. So the way that we now make money, as I said, is we provide B2B2G services, right? And most of our revenue currently comes from the mobility work that we're doing and the urban mobility optimization systems that we're creating for businesses working with the government sector. We work in Greece extensively, and we're just starting out working in Croatia and in Estonia as well. So this is something that works for us. And of course, we've been very happy to have been awarded grants to support our work in the maritime sector, to help us bridge a gap that required a lot of research and R&D in order to get where we're starting out next year. So as a company, this time last year, we had just hired our 9th person. Now we're 13, and we expect by next year to probably not double in size, but see an increase in our personnel and in our revenues. We had year over year, we've doubled our revenues, and we expect this trend to continue next year as well. In terms of investors, and if we're looking, of course, launching a new product in a new industry, it's something that is very capital intensive, especially if you talk about the maritime sector. So starting off Q1, Q2 of 2023, where we hope to start having some conversations around this.
Okay, and have you any idea, or what are you looking for, and if there is any request on the amount of the funding that you are going to ask?
For us, it can be about funding, right? But mostly, and particularly talking about the maritime sector, it's about finding people that think the same way as you are, right? And about working with partners that can open doors. And as I said, this is the key to our industry. So we're not going out saying that we need 1-2 million euros. We're going out saying we need key partners and key areas, like, as I said, Northern Europe, like the North America, that can help us, scale. And if both us and a potential partner are motivated to do this, then funding is the easy part.
Sure, and also, you know, to have the access to the right people and the right network, it's for sure something quite important. And on that, I would like that, and I would like to learn more about the capital that you already have. And I'm talking about the most important thing of a startup company. And for me, it's the people, the team. So this is the most valuable asset of a startup. So please share some things about that.
Sure, and I would love to, actually, because I know we've had the pleasure of welcoming you to our offices last week, and I hope you saw what I'm seeing every day. That as a team, we're full of young people. The oldest among us is a bit over 30. Most of us are 25, 26. And the pleasure of working with people of this kind and the drive to innovate is tangible every day. It's when I talk about our team, I want and talk about people that do not look at millions in the making, do not look at, hey, this is an office job. It's people that when I bring, for example, a project idea or another client or a new innovation that could be applied, that for example, a customer suggested, their heart starts beating faster. And that's what you want, right? People that will work in the morning or will not work at all, or they'll just come one day and say, this is amazing, I want to work on it, no matter what. And this is what we're seeing every day, right? We could not have been doing all these things without the team. And of course, this is cliche to say that growing and going forward, we're looking more people that think this way, the same way as I described.
Thinking in the same way, it's quite important. But as far as I know and I've seen and we have discussed before, you are a team mostly of engineers, and this makes things, I think, thinking on another way, not only on the spirit of collaboration, of the energy that I got, but also about thinking and trying to provide solutions. And engineers and people like that are willing to create solutions to solve problems, and this is something that bring innovation and make disruption to every market. So let's wrap up, and I would like to wrap up and share with us your favorite quote.
Well, before doing that, I'll just say one thing. So when you think about innovation, I was in a discussion recently, you think about engineers and you're like, oh, sure, engineers are doing that. I don't think that it's about engineers. We have people on our team that have studied, for example, classics, like ancient Greek. It for me, it doesn't matter what you've studied. It's about the mindset, right? And talking about mindsets and talking about quotes, what I say to the team every day is that there is no luck, right? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And this is what we're doing. We're preparing, and suddenly a lot of opportunities come up.
So that's great, and it's a very nice closing. So you combine the team and the mindset that it's needed. And I have the majority of the engineers I have met actually are sharing the same mindset. Sure, there are more other people that let's say I could say that are hidden engineers on the way that they are approaching things. So yeah, quite important, and everything could come from the team, from a place that people wants to solve an issue, and we have the issue. We have a serious issue. You are a great team, and I would like to wish you the best, and to follow up this conversation after 5 years and check out your predictions, let's say. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot once again, and I wish you the best.
Thanks so much. It was a pleasure being here and looking forward to 5 years.
Great. Bye bye.
Bye bye.